You've probably heard of crabs in a bucket mentality, or what some people just call crabs mentality. And in this video, I plan to talk a little bit about it and also how it's far more pervasive than I ever used to realize. And not only that, but it's more harmful than I used to realize to us as individuals, and I would suggest as a group. So by the end of this video, you'll understand why it's important to understand what crab mentality is and what you can do to circumvent it when you are faced with it. And the reason I was inspired to make this video is because today on the train on the way home from my normie job, I was browsing through the Reddit Financial Independence subreddit. And financial independence, you've probably heard of this. They use the acronym FIRE, F-I-R-E, financial independence and retire early. And so the basic idea of FIRE, as they call it, is people are trying to earn more money and spend less and invest more so that they can retire in their 60s, in their 50s, in their 40s. The idea is they want to get off the system. They want to stop depending on the corporate teat as soon as possible. And so anyway, I like to read through that sub because it's, I think, very uplifting. These people who are taking their future into their own hands and making sacrifices and trying to be independent from the system. And if you just read through their sub, you'll see it's generally very positive. People are trying to encourage each other, and it's, I think, fantastic. Anyway, there was a thread there today that I was reading on the train on the way home, and it stuck out to me. So this is a post, this is a thread that's about the black community. So someone has posted a thread basically saying, are there any black fires out there? Any people trying to achieve financial independence? And if so, are you noticing that it's difficult as a black person, given how many people in the community seem to want to hold each other down? And even though I'm not black myself, I thought this would be interesting. So I read the thread, and I'll post a link to it in the info box below. But there was one post in particular that I wanted to touch on here. This is from somebody who calls themselves Fitness is King, and he writes, black, younger than 25, without including my business and only evaluating liquid holdings, net is around 80 to 100k, give or take. And you should understand, in this particular subreddit, this is very common. It's not bragging, it's not false bravado. This is part of the culture there, is to share where you're at with your attempts to become financially independent. And then he says, there are 3 things I want you to remember. The second one is the key one here. He says, as a black person, you will be judged. You will be hated more so by your own people than the people you'd expect. You are pursuing something that many of us have been convinced is impossible. I was always told it would be the white man keeping me down as I leveled up, but more often than not, it's my own fellow people on the same journey with the same goals as I have that steal or treat me badly. Be resilient. And again, I'll put the link to this in the info box below. What he's saying is that as a young black man trying to become financially independent, it's not the white man keeping him down. It's not the boogeyman who he's been told will keep him down. It's his own people on the same path. Now, this stood out to me because in the act realm, in the conspiracy culture, this is the same experience that I have had. There are all these people pretending to be seeking the truth, and they will tell you that the people keeping you down is the Illuminati or the government or some nefarious boogeyman agency. But in fact, in this scene, the people who keep you down the most are the so-called truth seekers. Yes, that has been my experience. If you become in any way relatively successful in this scene, the people attacking you are not the CIA or ASIO or the Illuminati or any nefarious group. No, it's the so-called truth seekers at this scene. They will call you a shill. They will say that you've sold out. They will attack you for trying to monetize your website. Even though you've released hundreds of free videos, when you start monetizing, they will start attacking you for doing that time and time and time again. The only people who have been confrontational with me or tried to stop me in any way have not been the so-called bad guys, the government or anything like that. No, it has been people in this scene. So what this young man, Fitness is King, has experienced trying to become financially independent as a black man is the same thing that I've experienced as a so-called conspiracy theorist trying to expose certain things through social media and through my website and these kinds of things. And it's the same thing that you will experience more or less no matter who you are if you are successful. It won't be the purported boogeymen who stop you. It'll be the people who are envious of what you're doing. It'll be the people with loser mentalities who are never going to achieve anything, who don't want to see you achieve anything, because when you do, it shows that they are responsible for their own failures in life. Yes, that is what's happening. There is nobody stopping you, and there is nobody stopping me, and there is nobody stopping any of us from making something of ourselves. So the people who sit around complaining about these external sources that are stopping them, when you become successful, you are showing them up for the fools and liars that they are, and that is why they will try and stop you. So, in the case of Fitness is King, any black person in his community who wants to blame the white man, when this guy proves that he can do it, that he can be successful, it's showing those people are just excuse makers. Same thing with my website. As my website continues to grow, as my YouTube channel continues to grow, what is this showing? It's showing that anybody can do this. You don't have to be special. You don't need to be a member of some secret fraternity. Anybody can do this. So the people who've spent the last 5, 10, 15 years consuming conspiracy content and doing nothing with their lives, well, I'm showing that they have wasted their time sitting around complaining about boogeymen, aren't I? And that's why it's called crabs in a bucket mentality. People down here, if they were to just work together and they could get out of the bucket, no. So if you try to get out by yourself, they try and drag you down. Now, this isn't just a theory. There's actually been scientific studies into crab mentality that look at this, sociological studies that look at this. And I'll put a link to this in the info box below. This is from 2015. It's a fascinating study. It was based in New Zealand. And basically what they found was that the students were kind of peer pressuring each other to not do well on exams. And so what they did was they tested what happens if instead of releasing the results publicly, the results of the exams are released privately, anonymously. And they found that across the board, people's results improved. So the tests weren't any harder or easier, but people's results were better. Now, why was that? Because at this particular university, and in this study they tend to extrapolate across all of New Zealand, they feel as though the culture is that people don't want to do well because, again, there'll be a peer pressure to try and drag people down. So people just internalize this and don't try and succeed because they don't want to be dragged down. But when the results are private, anonymous, now people are more free to try to succeed, and succeed they do. Now, this particular study, I'm not saying that it proves crab mentality in and of itself. You should always check these studies for yourself. You'll find if you go and check the methodology, they have a sample size of 130 people at this particular university. So it's one study, 130 people in New Zealand a few years ago. It doesn't prove crab mentality. It's just one piece of evidence that supports the hypothesis. And again, this is something that I've experienced. It's something that this dude has experienced. And I'm sure at some point in your life, you've probably experienced this as well. Whether it was primary school or high school or a sporting club or some point in your life, maybe your family, you found that when you were successful, other people tried to drag you down. And this is one of the main pieces of conditioning that stop people from being successful. This is one of the purposes of high school, is to homogenize people, socialize people, make people all the same, bring them down to the lowest common denominator. So you don't really need scientific studies to know this is true. You already know this is true because you've experienced it. And if you're like the majority of people, you've allowed that to stop you from reaching for more, for trying to be a better version of yourself, and you've given up. But there's a chance that, just like me and just like many people around the world, you've decided, no, I don't care if people are trying to drag me down. I'm going to keep trying to improve. I'm going to keep trying to be the best version of me I can be. I'm going to keep succeeding. And if you're one of those people, then you know that it doesn't matter how many crabs are in the bucket trying to drag you down. They cannot win if you decide that you're going to get out of the bucket. That's what this guy has done. He's got 80 to 100K at age 25. That dude's going to retire by the time he's 40, unless he gets married and has kids, which he probably will. But if he stays on that path, he's going to retire early, no matter what the crabs try and tell him. Me, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm going to say goodbye, little crabs. Goodbye. And the crabs will yell, J.O.B., you're a shill. J.O.B., give us your content for free. And I'll be saying bye-bye. Bye-bye, crabs. See you later. Don't need ya. Bye-bye. And they'll sit around, oh, that J.O.B., he's a shill. He's a shill. Making money, talking about the truth. He's a shill. And they'll be dragging each other down because that's all they're capable of doing. And what you need to understand is that in the act realm, in the broader conspiracy culture, the majority of people are crabs. That's why they always accusing each other of being shills. Have you ever noticed how many of them call each other shills? He's a shill, she's a shill, he's a shill, he's a shill, that guy's a shill, that guy's a shill, 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 shill. That's just crabs dragging each other down. And it's one of the main reasons why people don't get into content creation, because they're afraid that if they start making videos, making podcasts, writing blogs, they're afraid that the crabs will try and drag them down. And they're correct. The crabs will try and drag you down. There's only a small percentage of people who are strong enough to say, fuck the crabs, I'm going to do this anyway. So with all of that being said, I want to mention a person who's doing work that has inspired me. So this is one of the people who, using this metaphor of the crabs in a bucket, he left the bucket behind a long time ago. He's a trailblazer. He makes money doing film analysis that he sells on an a la carte basis. In other words, he sells his film analysis one by one by one. You can buy a film analysis about Apocalypse Now, about Blade Runner, about Jim Cameron films, A Clockwork Orange by Kubrick. There's a whole list here. I'll put a link to this in the info box below. And just the other day, this guy, Rob Ager is his name, he released a film analysis on They Live, which to me is the best analysis I have ever seen on this film. He picked up things that I didn't pick up, and I've seen this film like half a dozen times. Why do I mention this? Because this guy to me, Rob Ager, he's one of the few people who I respect in this scene. And he's not even really in this scene. He would never identify as a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. But if you buy his videos, and they're very cheap, and you watch them, you'll notice this guy drops red pills all the time. He's way more woke than the vast majority of people in the act realm. But he's smart enough not to identify as a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, because he knows if he does, all the crabs will come after him. So instead, he's a film analysis. He does film analyses. You see, that's what he does. He doesn't identify as a conspiracy theorist, but you go and watch his work and you'll see he is woke AF. So this is a person who I support. I buy his film analyses. I've bought the entire lot. Let me show you. 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've bought every single one of these, and every single one of them was worth the money. It's fantastic stuff. And by watching his work and learning from his work, I've improved, and I continue to improve. That's what I'm all about, continual improvement, and I continue to improve. So thanks to people like Rob Ager, my analysis has improved, and I'm starting to release my own film analyses. So for instance, I did a film analysis where I looked at The Truman Show, and I looked at the similarities between that film, 9/11, and the Route 91 event of last year, which you might not know that there are similarities, but there's tons of them. And so what I'm doing is I'm bringing my media fakery awareness, my hoax awareness, and I'm combining it with some of this film analysis insight, the philosophy of studying the truth that is within some of these films and why it's there. I'm combining what I'm learning from Rob Ager with my understanding of film analysis and media fakery and all these kinds of things to produce my own work, and I continue to improve. So to me, Rob Ager, a person I've never chatted with, this guy here, he's one of the people who left the crab bucket behind. He did it in a very smart way. I'm leaving the bucket as well, and I'm saying bye-bye, bye-bye, and I'm saying that any of you can do this as well. But you have to understand why the crabs are doing what they're doing. It's because they're stupid. And this is why the crabs in a bucket mentality metaphor is used. Because these crabs, if they worked together, they could all get out of the bucket. But whoever's bucket of crabs this is, doesn't even have to put a net over the crabs, because these idiots are going to drag each other down time and time and time again. And that's exactly what happens in this scene. With all of that said, there is some good news, and I can tell you for absolute certainty that there are at least 70 people who are not crabs, people who are not envious of what I'm doing, people who are not trying to drag me down. In fact, they're people supporting what I'm doing with johnthebond.com. There's close to 80 members now of the website. There were people trying to tell me that I could never do this, that it would never work. Then, when it started working, there were people telling me that I shouldn't do it. Oh, JLB, you shouldn't be doing that. You should keep giving us more free content. You've given us hundreds of videos for free. Now you owe us. And I said to those people, fuck you. And look how well this website is going. Look at this, almost 80 members. And that number's going to keep on growing. And I'll tell you why the numbers are going to keep on growing. Because this Rob Ager model of doing film analysis a la carte, I'm going to start doing that myself, releasing my pieces for purchase one-off. However, the members of the website will continue to get all of those videos as part of their membership. In other words, the people who've signed up as foundation members, Next year, when I'm building up my back catalogue, just like Rob Ager, whose work has inspired me, they'll never have to pay a cent more than $5 a week, the cost of a cup of coffee, to be a member of the website, to keep getting new analyses. The price will go up for new members, and people will be regretting not getting on board when Foundation membership was ready, when it was there for the taking. But more people will keep on joining, more people will keep on joining the website, supporting the website, appreciating what I do, and at the same time, the more successful the website gets, the more crabs are going to be sitting there saying, JLB's a shill, blah, blah, blah. Bunch of crabs. So with all of that said, you should now understand what the crabs in a bucket mentality is. I'll put a link to this post from Reddit in the info box below. You can go and check that out. You can go and look at this study for yourself, where they could see that even at a university level, people are afraid of succeeding because other people will try and drag them down like crabs in a bucket. I'll put a link to this analysis by Rob Ager. This is a free analysis. He released this one. This is 12 minutes. He reckons he'll be releasing the full one soon. As soon as he does, I'll be buying it happily. Far more happy to give my money to someone doing this kind of work than to what? Netflix, the cinemas, the pub, alcohol, drugs. What do people spend their money on? I don't know. I spend my money on people like this guy, and I learn from him. I'm glad he's out there. I'll put a link to that analysis in the info box below. I'll put a link to this guy's page. Some of these videos are only $3 or $4, right? Go and check them out. I'm telling you, this guy's dropping serious red pills. He knows what he's doing. And I'll also put a link to johnthebond.com, so for those of you who are interested, you can go and take a look around what's already available should you join up as a Foundation member of johnthebond.com. That'll do it for today on the 6th of November 2018. Check the links in the info box below. Don't be a crab in a bucket, or if you have been, stop it. Just stop it. If you're letting crabs stop you, stop letting the crabs stop you. You can do whatever you want. There are no boogeymen. Your biggest enemies are the people pretending to be your friends almost every time, because your success proves their failure. Don't let that happen. And until next time, you guys, take care of yourselves.